First, I want to start with a thank you and appreciation to the organizers of this conference for inviting me to share some thoughts on neurodiversity and also allowing me to connect with you in a virtual way rather than being there in person. I would like to share some thoughts with you about neurodiversity. They are not in any particular order of significance. By way of just quickly background, I've been engaged in this mission of helping neurodistinct, neurodivergent, neurodiverse adults get into meaningful, rewarding, and sustained employment that is commensurate with their educational qualifications and interests and abilities. Unfortunately, in today's world, it is a huge challenge for people whose brain works differently to be readily accepted and included in social settings, educational settings, or employment settings. I think primarily this arises from a lack of understanding that neurodiversity in human society is normal. Neurodiversity in human society is common. While neurodiversity and neurodiverse conditions in humans is quite common, the understanding that it is so, unfortunately, is not common. And in our mission, we feel there is a need to raise awareness in society at large about the normalcy of neurodiversity. Now, we all know, thanks to COVID, the concept of herd immunity when it comes to the propagation of COVID-19. In a similar way, we can think of a concept called herd awareness. Herd awareness that neurodiversity is normal. Now, this comes from educating people about the commonality of neurodistinctness, neurodiversity within humans, and a mindset with which neurodiversity can be approached and accepted in our interactions with other people. Now, what do I mean by that? Most of us, when we interact with other people, when we look at other people, we tend to look at them through the twin lenses of expectation and judgment. Neurodiversity calls for putting aside those glasses and taking on a mindset of inclusion for abilities and acceptance for differences. Regardless of what the level of abilities are, what the exact abilities are of an individual, if we can approach them, we can interact with them from a mindset of inclusion for their abilities, including them in social settings, educational settings, employment settings. And we can offer them a mindset of acceptance for their differences. Then we are aligning with the concept of neurodiversity. Acceptance comes from a place of understanding and awareness that neurodiversity is normal. And acceptance can then lead to a perspective of how can I support you with respect to your differences, which may be challenges in the given context. How can I support you? How can I empower you so that your strengths can shine and not have these differences become stumbling blocks for that inclusion and participation. Now, we all know that in many organizations, many companies, diversity, equity, and inclusion is an area of significant discussion and focus. Now, most of the DEI or diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts are, for the most part, as I see them, premised on a foundation of identity. Identity with respect to gender, with respect to color, maybe sexual orientation, maybe whatever other cultural background and so on. And identities are important. I mean, we all have multiple identities. We have intersection among those identities. Identities are important. And often identities are a source of pride for all of us. But the challenge is pride never comes by itself. In its shadow is prejudice. And where, because of extremely strong identification, the prejudice can then begin to influence our thinking and influence our interactions with others and fundamentally affect that objective, the fundamental objective of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think there is a better foundation from which to approach diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in organizations, and that is to align with something from a foundation point of view that is common to all of us as humans. Neurodiversity as a dimension of diversity is the most fundamental of diversity, in my opinion, because it transcends gender, color, and any other form or any other dimension of diversity that you can think of. And if we can recognize that, and if we can accept that neurodiversity is normal, that we should look at people from a mindset of inclusion for abilities and acceptance for differences, then our organizations, our teams, our work groups, and so on will have greater level of psychological safety, where people will feel comfortable bringing their authentic selves into the workplace or into the educational setting or even social settings, and that will enable them to let their strength shine for the benefit of that association or that organization. And this concept that by adopting an intentional mindset of inclusion of neurodiversity can lead to psychological safety in the workplace, it is something that we feel very, very strongly about. And that's why, in our organization, we are doing a number of neurodiversity in the workplace awareness sessions. Some of them are free sessions. We do 2 free sessions per month. If you go to our website, or if you go to LinkedIn page of our organization, you will see those events being announced. Anyone can sign up, and I would definitely welcome any of you to join us in one of those sessions. I promise you that it'll be quite fun and also hopefully quite educational. But in addition, because we are a social enterprise in a nonprofit organization, we do request organizations to invite us to come and talk to them about neurodiversity in the workplace as a paid session so that we can continue our mission. And these are some basic thoughts that I wanted to share. I will end with one other thought. I think many of you would remember from your high school or maybe college days learning about mathematical distributions, and in particular this special distribution called normal distribution. It's the symmetrical bell curve. Now, if I were to ask you a question, which is, which part of the normal distribution is abnormal? Now, you immediately see the ridiculousness of that question. Every part of the normal distribution is part of the normal distribution, and hence it's quite normal. Now, for any given dimension of ability or characteristic, I'll take an example of the ability to swim. Now, I consider myself as a land-based animal. I kind of keep water at a respectable distance and do not know how to swim. I'm not comfortable just jumping into water like that. Now, one of my colleagues, she's like a fish. She is so comfortable in water. She is literally, she can do anything she wants in water. Now, I am on one end of that distribution with respect to ability to swim. She's on other end of the distribution with respect to that ability. But we both are part of that same distribution with respect to the ability to swim. And hence, we both are normal, even though our abilities are dramatically different. Now, I think this concept of the normalcy of neurodiversity is something that we need to educate our children from the very early stages of their educational efforts in an age-appropriate way. Maybe in elementary schools, it could be through stories that could be illustrative of people having differences, having different abilities, but still they are both quite normal. And as they progress in their educational levels, it could become group activities where they explicitly work on projects that highlight that innovation and creativity and outstanding solutions can arise when we put people of very different capabilities and cognitive and thinking abilities together to focus on the problem and come up with potentially some extremely good, solutions. And I believe that if we can take that type of perspective when we design our products and services, this universal design, being very conscious that people are different. They are going to interact with, systems and tools and processes depending on the way their brain works in different ways. If we can bring that universal design principles, have the community of different people participate in providing input to be able to come up with really great designs, I think, we'll have a much better world for all of us. I want to again thank you all for giving me the opportunity to share these thoughts with you, and I wish you all the best in terms of having a wonderful conference where you learn a great deal of insights. Thank you very much. Bye.